Peace World, welcome back to another episode. My name is Yafeth, aka YGT Records. I got my man Rich on the side. What's going on, Rich?
Hey, how's it going? How's it doing?
Everything's great,
Everything
man.
going well?
Absolutely, man. Everything is beautiful. We got Amxxr down below, as y'all can see. How you doing today, man?
How you doing, brother?
I'm doing excellent, man. What'd you get into today?
It's rolling loud out here today. I might try to pull up. So maybe that may be part of my agenda. But other than that, just another day in the city, man.
Cool. Where you at right now?
New York.
New York, cool.
Tunnel, actually.
New York
Can
is
you hear me?
yeah. It was cutting out a bit, but you said you're in New York. Is that where your birthplace was?
Yeah.
Cool. So let's just go ahead and get into it. One of the more interesting things that most people may know about you is that recently you've made a mixtape with Pete Rock, 21 grams. One thing that I was curious about is the rollout with the vinyl, how y'all made it an exclusive release, a limited release, and also, well, first let's just start with that. What was the whole idea behind the limited release with the vinyl?
The premise and the idea behind it wasn't like for like anything super strategic for to drive sales or anything. I think Pete has a fan base that appreciates his vinyl, like his works, regardless of what he's done for production purpose or just honestly just being a fan. And they always purchase his vinyls. In this case, it was a mixtape. I'm sorry. In this case, it was a mixtape with myself. So, it was, like, look, let's put a couple limited edition releases with the mayor and Pete for the first release of, True Soul Artist. So I think it also showed and gave us allowed us to put our finger on a pulse of people's palate. I mean, was our palate palatable for some of his audience, to a degree, right? So mostly it was just really for his hardcore fans, and allowing me to have that introduction to his audience properly.
Cool. And you mentioned True Soul too. That's Pete Rock's own label. I'm not.
Yeah.
I believe. Are you one of, if not the first artist signed to that label?
Yes, I'm actually the first artist he signed to True Soul. Yeah, to answer the question, yeah. And we're here now. I mean, we have as a solo artist, yeah, but I also think it's Pete Rock and the Soul Brothers. They did an album together before. Yeah, so.
Dope.
But yeah.
So for 21 grams, now correct me if I am wrong. I believe I actually don't think it's available even on like streaming or anything. So I'm curious behind that decision because obviously streaming would make it available to a lot more folks. So why kind of restrict yourself on that aspect?
I think not even I think. So when you're dealing with someone that's going to have the visibility or people have access to him like a Pete, right? What's going to happen is if you put those samples out on a mixtape and they're not cleared properly, right, through the proper, it would have caused more. It would have slowed us down more than sped us up. So we had to make it. Now, if we could have put it for free on, iTunes, Spotify, etc., and not receive any benefits from it, then we would have absolutely done that. But at the time, it wasn't the feasible thing to do. It wasn't. I mean, it just didn't make sense. But what it did show us was the people that went to find it on the platforms, whether it was sound. I mean, I even let the link out. I seen people had the album, they was downloading it. I seen free links for it. So it started to like grow legs on its own. And that's really what we wanted, man. It was like, if they could bootleg it, take it anyway, it doesn't matter because at this point we just want to spread the word, right? And we know we couldn't sell the music because of the clearance. It would have been clearance issues. You had Michael Jackson on there. You had James Brown. You had, Rick James. There's a huge samples on there. So, yeah.
Cool. And as far as your relationship with Pete Rock, how's that been, developing recently?
Nah, it's not even that it's developed, bro. Pete knows me since I was little. Is it?
Oh, we lost you there, Amir. There you go.
I said, nah, man, it's not that I don't think it's developed any more than it was, 5 or 10 years ago. Pete known me for years, bro. It's really a family vibe, right? So it's like a little brother to a big brother type of a situation. He it's always love, man. Like, I mean, it's Pete. Like, we go. I said we didn't go to high school together or nothing, but I'm from the same block. I mean, I lived on Hillside for years, bro. So when he seen me on there, it's like seeing a guy from your neighborhood, and his family, Miss Phillips, and the family knows me very well. So they look at me as family. So it didn't affect. It actually probably made making the music a lot easier, because when somebody knows the fiber in the of your community and the pedigree of people you come from, it makes it a lot easier to have that cohesive creative energy when y'all go into the lab together. So, I mean, I don't think the relationship changed in a way where it was the dynamic change. I think it actually, in my opinion, it actually made us a lot more tighter, but from a creative standpoint, but as men having to have certain conversations about life and business decisions, and him watching me grow or giving me like I said, that brotherly advice of, I had this happen to me. I want to make sure this doesn't happen to you, blah, blah, blah. So, it kind of, the business relationship changed, but the personal relationship just increased, in my opinion.
Cool. It's almost like Pete's almost like a mentor now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, yeah. And the funny thing about mentorship, you never really ask. I was always told mentorship should be something that kind of develops over time. It shouldn't be something you ask people. That's what I don't know if for some people it may work that way, but when it's an organic relationship and that person decides to want to mentor you and help you out and tell you about how to maneuver, the relationship tends to have a very, that mentorship itself, each person gets more from it because it's
right.
The exchange between the two. Yeah. So I would say I would agree with that. It is definitely taking that more than ever. My opinion.
Cool. So we've all heard the mixtape here. We know you can rhyme. Now I'm curious. I'm curious. Was that always the plan for you? Did you always know you was gonna be an artist?
I knew I was gonna be something, man. I didn't know. I was talking to my mother about this the other day, and we was at the boys club years ago, and it had kids around the table asking them, what do you want to be? Like real shit, was like, what you want to be when you grow up? And I said, I don't know. She said, Amir, why? They asked me, Amir, why are you special? I said, because I'm somebody. And I don't know why that is always, I don't know what that somebody was. I don't know if it was going to be, artist at the end of the road. But to me, art is more like a journey, not a specific destination. I knew artistry was gonna, at one point, I had to probably be like 11, 12, maybe younger, when I started to have this affinity for music, drums, organs, and stuff like that. Most people in our community start out in the church. Your grandmother, your grandfather, uncle, somebody put you in the church, whether it's a choir or you start playing the drums. I got kicked off the drums by my uncle. He was older, clearly. He said, I wanted to play the drums. That was my first thing. Then they put me on the organ. I had a little organ in the room playing with the keys. So if you'd have asked me at that stage, I'd have told you I probably was going to be a keyboard player, right? But as life may have it, my severe love for words, man, and just communication and language turned into, trying to put it in rhyme schemes and communicate this way. And so I think, yeah, I always, in the back of my head, I always knew it, but I didn't know how it was going to happen. So imagine you seeing like the Pete Rocks and CLs on TV, right? And then years later, you're beside these guys working. It's a very surreal, like, it takes a minute to like spiritually, I think, settle with it, like to come to terms with it, accept your position, be in student mode and understand that this is what it's going to be, you know what I'm saying? And you have to accept that your role in it. So I would say, yeah, I knew, but I like to double back, I didn't know how, but I definitely I started writing rhymes in 12, 13, I would write down other people's lyrics and memorize it and just fell in love with the schemes and how it would go. I'm like, oh, this is crazy. And then I started to try to do my own and just went from there. But I did know something. I didn't know how though. Yeah.
So at that age, you're 13, you're coming into your craft. Who are you listening to? It's obvious, Pete and CL, you're listening to those guys. There's a lot of people that were coming out of that area, that North Bronx area, Preacher Earl and all that stuff. K. Shaw, of course. Who were you listening to at the time? Heavy.
I actually stole I stole my sister's tapes. So I started, I was already back an extra 5 years, 10 years. And, so I started out with, she had a Rakim tape. Mm-hmm. I had to put nail polish on this shit, man, to make the tape stick together, lay it on top and put the clear nail polish on it. So when I put it in the box, it would skip, but the tape wasn't all the way broke. So I was just, so I started out there, so and then I started to listen to like, bro, anything it's just so much for me to sit here and say heavy. I'll be lying to you, but I will say any dudes from 914, whether it was Brand New, me and Pete, CL, you had Hev, I had just a ton of guys like from where I was from to listen to, the Locks, definitely heavy on the Locks when they was the Warlocks, heavy on DMX, heavy on like Kim and heavy Nas, Jay, Big, I also like the Hieroglyphics. I like, those guys out of Cali, Dre, Snoop, Dog Pound, shit, man. I'm not naming everybody, but I swear it's so many. It was just so rich. It was so much rich, uncut music to listen to, right, and to absorb it. And then you remember, there was a period in hip hop where they started to do this. They started segmenting it, right? You start East Coast, West Coast, and we didn't do that. The corporations did it. Mm. So I remember, I'm not going to front, that Dr. Dre Chronic album is crazy, right? Super crazy. Snoop's first album was crazy. Dog Pound. I think even a lot of movies that was coming out had the soundtracks that was fire, which introduced me to other artists from different regions, right? Whether you had the Juice soundtrack was crazy to me. New Jack City, I was listening to that the other day. And just really, bro, just any artist that I felt like I could just connect with what they were saying. And it was always an instrumentation for me. But I was definitely heavy Nas, definitely heavy on the J, definitely heavy on Big, believe it or not, heavy on the Outkast, heavy on anything out the Dr. Dre camp, I was just on it. Anything out of 914, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, in New York, a lot of New York artists, bro, Uptown, like Queens, whatever. Queens had a certain swing with their MCs, very jewel-driven, slick talk, jeweling in the music. Brooklyn artists, it was just rich, man. It was just so much, man. And that's not a political answer. I'm just thinking about, that's a great question, but it's so much but heavily, definitely was what I told you, yeah. And I could probably break it down per region, like artists out of that region that I was heavy on.
Yeah, there's
the Midwest had artists that was fire too.
Oh yeah, Common.
Like, and even out of Slum Village, when I first heard Slum Village and I got put on to it was way after their success. But then I had to go back once again, go back into people's catalog and stuff. I'm like, oh, this is crazy. And shout out to my man 88 Keys, man. He put me on to how he was telling me how that first album was recorded in the basement on this tape, like in the methodology of recording. And I had to go back and listen. He said, listen to it. I was like, oh, that's crazy. So yeah, man, it's a lot of artists. I mean, those are the main ones though for me.
Cool. So, you know, a lot of amazing talent you just named. One thing I've always thought about artists too is that, you know, you guys are so many different professions put together in one. Like you guys are therapists, you guys are teachers, you guys are a lot of different professions, right? I'm curious if you think that, you know, a lot of MCs or even producers or just artists period are even respected in that manner.
You have to earn the respect, and some respect is taken, not given. Right? When you're talking about that duality of being an artist or a businessman or whatever, even when I speak about myself, right? Technology for me, right? Being a technologist outside of the music, right? And having a serious foundation in it and making a living off of that prior to music is we were taught that it didn't weaponize us, right? We were taught that, like, look, you can only be an artist, just do this and concentrate on your art, and that's it. But we've always been so much more than just artists, right? To me. And like I said, artistry is a part of your journey. It's not always the end all be all, right? Because even after you're not an artist 24 hours a day, but you are a human being 24 hours a day. So when you have to go into artist mode and hit that button and perform or record, and you want to, you know, be present for, you know, whatever may flow through you to the people, I think that we had to take control of that narrative and not let people control the narrative for us, because nowadays artists are designers. They design sneakers, we design clothes, they're building websites, they learn how to do X, Y, and Z. We're starting other businesses and restaurants, X, Y, and Z. And we're still behind. And even through, you know, all of that, we still, you know, borrow money from banks to start businesses, when a lot of the things that have, you know, fueled the economy have come through people's intellectual property. And I think now we value intellectual property a lot more than we did prior. So great question, but it does have a lot of moving pieces in it. But for me, I think that when you're multifaceted like that, it definitely empowers you. It doesn't disempower you, but you just have to know how to leverage what you know against the conversation you're having with that said audience.
Right.
And then act your power in knowing things, because artistry is so much bigger than just the creative, because once you know, just the process of creating it, how you disseminate it, and, you know, and just total, I'm preaching to the choir, but it's just not just a total branding, but who you are and letting people have access and visibility into that. Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. Yeah. You said it great there. How, you know, artists are much more than just artists. You know, like for all I know, some of these dudes might be a wizard at like real estate, and you could learn a lot from that or something, right? So I think there's a whole flip side to who the artist you're listening to is, that you're completely neglecting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. For me, like being an engineer, a cybersecurity engineer, right? With a degree in, and this is not bragging, but this is just a fact. Like I have an undergraduate in computer science and a master's in cybersecurity from Fordham University. Everybody knows that that's not an easy school to get through, and to graduate and be on the dean's list the entire time is, and I was recording throughout this whole process. Like when I was in school, and you talk about 2016 when I graduated. And it's just been and I would hide that. I never told people that. It was like one of those things where now I can't tell them I'm into technology, because they're not gonna think my street credibility is going to match up with this. So I'm just going to keep it regular, right? You know, I battled with that. These are just facts. I'm telling you the truth, right? But once, I'm not going to front, bro. When I started talking about crypto in 2016, when I bought my first Bitcoin, it's $800. I'm telling my friends I'm telling dudes at the studio about this. This is I guarantee you're going to remember when I told you this. They're going to say, Amir told me about that shit. It was $800. Mm-hmm. I remember, yo, anybody miss all that computer stuff? I'm like, all right, cool. Right? 5 years later, that was 2016. It took half a decade for the world to understand the importance of technology and how art has always used technology to push itself, whether it was recording, being heard, or being visible. Technology can exist without art. Art could exist without technology, but art would not thrive the way it has now without technology. So technology has always been has been the wheels for art. And once I started to realize that, I said to myself, I never thought there would be a day where me knowing things about technology would empower my artistry. Because now people want to talk to artists that know about, everybody's talking NFTs. These things are years, 5, 10 years old or better. It's not new information to people that have been in the technology community, but to the world of art, it is. Thus creating an opportunity and a gap for people to insert themselves and make money and become somewhat new voices for a community that has always been there. So, yeah, we have to not be ashamed of, we have to not be ashamed of like what we are, what we've learned, and use it to empower, not disempower oneself. But and I would love to ask you guys in the same breath, when you were smart in high school, you was called a nerd, right? If you was from the hood or not, you got good grades, man, get out of here. Look, this is how we was thinking. This is bugged out. You could have whooped some of these kids' ass, but you made straight A's in math, but it didn't matter. We were taught that if you're smart, you're acting white, you're not acting black. So it was, blacks were taught that it was damn near, bro, how sick is that? And I'm not on no Dr. Umar shit. I was telling you, like, this is what drives the reason why this is the underlying nuances for these type of questions, because it didn't start here with us. This was transcendent. It's a transcendent, like this thing was passed down to be a certain way. So it's a blessing to be amongst yourself and minds like you guys to really grasp each other's concepts and ask these type of questions and have that dialogue about why is it that way. But my question to you is, how do we fix it? What would be your steps or our steps to remediate these type of problems, you know, with artists and business practices that surround the music business?
It's a very good. Yo, go ahead. I'm sorry. No, that's a very good point. I think one of the things is that you bring up, and it goes into my next question about, you know, your professional field, is that I don't think that we are framing how important technology is and how it can empower people within hip hop. You know, I don't think that we do a good job of, you know, telling a kid, you know, who loves to make beats, why he may be interested in electrical engineering. Well, you know, if you understand how PCB boards work, and if you understand how logic gates work, you could potentially build your own beat machine, right? You know what I'm saying? So I wanted to go ahead and ask you, as a kid from Mount Vernon, how did you get into computer science as a young dude writing rhymes at 13? How did you get into that path?
My mother was always, my mother bought my first computer from Radio Shack, bro. Mm-hmm. But they had them bum ass floppy disks. The football, you had to slide into the joint it looked like a thin ass Pop-Tart. Like you just put it, you put it.
It's a vinyl record, right?
Yeah.
Big old, you push it.
That was the vibe of it. And I just remember her introducing me and saying, she kept saying, this is going to be the future. Guys, this is going to be the future. But only thing I was interested in was playing the video games on.
Of course.
Right? But at least, but you had to play the video games on the keyboard. It wasn't a joystick on this joint. So you had to learn the keys. And I'm also training my brain how to, because I'm using L, F, the arrow key number 3 to do so. You up here typing. It looked like you're typing, but you're playing the original games on computers. It wasn't any joysticks, bro. Remember that. It was the keyboard. And I remember like 16-bit graphics, very like block looking, you know what I'm saying? You had Combat and like Atari, and then you started to see these games over time. So my introduction to technology was through video games, right? I wanted to know how they work. Like I would look on the back, who built it, who did what. Then I started looking at, album credits. We learned how to look at album credits. I would start looking at the credits on video games, who did this. And then you start looking it up on the internet, they'll tell you who the engineers was, what was the team that built it. You can even drill down and see who was the guy responsible single-handedly for the actual concept of it. And that started to intrigue me. I really wasn't heavy into coding at the time, but you know, most programmers that I know that have in the realm that I'm in started out with Hello World. And you just take it from there with C++ or Bash, or you know, C++, C+, and Python, Bash. Then people are just any type of HTML, hypertext markup language, and et cetera, that they built on top of these things over the years. But I think that was my introduction, was my mother, and she really pushed for. She would just buy computers, like any new one. She didn't get you video games, she'll get you a computer though. Yeah. And then later on, you know, here we are.
So was she like, you know, like, I'm not down with the whole rapping and the cussing tins and you doing this and
it's interesting that you say it's interesting that you say that, because my mother is very liberal, a very liberal kind of woman, man, very open-minded. One day a week, she will let you express yourself on, you know, you wanted to curse or whatever. She give you like 5 minutes to say what was on your mind, bro. It's the weirdest shit ever, like whether you want to curse, whatever. And she would sit at the table and look at your stupid ass and be like, so you just think that because I allowed you to curse for 5 minutes, that's how you use your language. Just, I mean, if you want to talk like that, go ahead. I'm giving you 5 minutes to speak freely. But there's other ways you can express yourself without cursing to get your point across to me. Now I'll let you speak and you know, that's cool. But if you really know how to command your language, you wouldn't curse like that. It's not an opportunity. I said, I'm letting you talk. What you did, you chose to curse, which is cool. But is that really expression? It is. And she started teaching me about, or buying me books or telling me things about expression and how to properly communicate. So she didn't mind the music. She just wanted me to say something and know how to say it, how to express it without always using profanity and XYZ. So that was her thing the whole time.
That's dope. That kind of even ties back to, you know, you're a educated man.
That's right.
I wanna ask you. So whenever I mention the word teacher, right? It doesn't even have to necessarily be an artist. But if I ask you or tell you the word teacher, who do you think of?
Teacher for me?
Yeah.
I think of Mr. Black, a math teacher I had in high school. One of the first people to really take his time to teach me and not judge me. He put me, Mr. Black was probably the most impressionable teacher in my life. My math teacher told me, I was in geometry. Then they put me in advanced, math courses. I got in some trouble and they kicked me back down. They took me out of the AP, courses, college prep AP, right? So I had to go back. The parents complained that they didn't want me to pass their kids because I got in trouble for doing something and it was just bad. And they sent me back to general studies because they didn't want me around the other kids that were in college prep because I was becoming a so-called distraction. So Mr. Black took me under his wing. He said, look, I know you know this math already. Help me teach the other students. And that's how my love for knowing when to be the student and knowing when to be the teacher was kind of taught to me indirectly. It was embedded in me through Mr. Black, because even though I was helping him with other students in high school how to do certain math, he would still tell me when I was doing something wrong to help him help his process because these classes had too many students, right? And if some students could help the others, it was like each one teach one, each one. And that's why I learned a lot of that from him within the education system. So when I think of teacher, I think of Mr. Black.
Was Mr. Black one of the most impactful people you've had in your life?
At that stage, under the age of 18, yeah. After the age of 18, it went in stages. One of the most impactful people in my life, bro, I'm gonna keep it about it, and it's not political, it's probably my mom's, man. Because I didn't realize how she was giving me this freedom. And because I had so much freedom as a kid, when I became an adult, I wasn't running around trying to get high or drink and party. My mother allowed me to. She really coached me through these things. Like, okay, you want to do this, but this is what's going to happen. She would buy me little books along the way to help shape my mind, but I didn't know that's what she was doing. Right? My mother was very liberal. Today she would probably be a hipster. She would be a hipster in hipster standards, right? But she was the type of mom that other kids would, be like, Jackie, can I hang? Like they wanted to hang around because of how she was with her own kids. Like she was definitely tough, but she allowed you wiggle room to become who you were supposed to be, right? So when my grandmother, my mother, the elder women, the elder statesmen that were females in my family were the foundation of who I am, that I have to equate them to being the greatest teachers, right? Were all of their teachings correct? No. But because those teachings were based out of love and concern with a certain level of empathy, but also a level of rigid, you're gonna stay in line too, you take these things with you throughout life. So I would be doing a disservice to the shield of my family to say somebody outside of my family is more influential than the women that raised me. Yeah.
You mentioned how the lessons may not always be right, but they were out of love and concern. Do you think you take that same approach, whether consciously or maybe even subconsciously, in your music?
Yeah, I hear it sometimes. I go back, I'm like, damn, I sound like my grandmother, or damn, I sound like something my mother would tell me, or I know where that school of thought, where that seed was planted at. So yeah, I would say that for sure. But there were other influential people along the way, right? Creatively, you have people that were more influential on your art than your parents, right? Like, so if we're talking about a Pete or you're talking about an arsonist, I'm talking about just the plethora of producers and artists that I've worked with, right? Or work with me, how we want to put it, and how we influence each other directly and indirectly, knowingly and unknowingly influence each other. I think that there's a lot, so I think each stage and each pocket has different teachers that took the steering wheel for me and drove until I was able to drive myself and know my way. So yeah, I would definitely say those women in my family were, yeah. Yeah.
So you mentioned that you know, you had all of these experiences growing up. Your mom was giving you guidance. The women in your life were giving you guidance, and also people outside of your family were giving you guidance as well. Yeah, to help you along. So we're forming the person, you know, that becomes you today. So, you know, you decide to get in computer science. You're at Fordham University. You know, nobody kind of really knows what you do, you know. So what happens next? Like what's the next step in that journey?
Before Fordham, bro, I was in the military. You know, when I graduated high school, I went straight to the Army. I was like 16 and 8 months. I wasn't even 17 yet. So your parents have to sign over legal guardianship to the government. So my first year and a half in the Army, I couldn't even leave the base because I wasn't 18, right? So once again, I'm with the OGs again, side by side with the drill sergeant, so the sergeant who's in charge of watching it was like maybe 6 of us that was under 18. All of us hung together. You know, we could walk around the post, but we couldn't leave the base. Leave the base, you're in trouble, right? And you had to be chaperoned off the base, even after basic. We were so young, right? So the shaping from military to Fordham to music, right? These things happen unplanned. It wasn't, I didn't plan that. It was just, I guess it's in your cards, right? And I went to do computer science because of music, though. At that time, I was using the computer, once again, that my mother showed me how to use when I was younger, spamming group chats with the link to find my music on different websites. Me and my brother put up a link, had a website, was telling, you know, spamming it, complete spamming. Making up fake emails before this was a thing. Like, we was really on some pirate style. I remember one dude hit me from OK Player, Dan from OK Player, said, "Look, man, I see you, man." He was laughing. He said, "Yo, you and your brother are crazy." He said, "I'm laughing at you guys because I love it, but I can't let you come here and go crazy." He said, "Look, here's my email. If you got some stuff, send it to me." He said, "I love what you're doing, but y'all do is definitely guerrilla marketing." He was chuckling like you chuckling like, yo, these dudes is crazy. Like, bro, we didn't care who it was. You're gonna get these links, man. So in the beginning, that's the reason when I got signed to Tommy Boy, I named the first album Only Built for Digital Links. Because the digital links is what got me and my brother noticed. So I'm talking about, you know, understanding the landscape of blogging, knowing these guys before it was a thing. Like, there was an era, like you talk about 2009 and 10, when blogs were making and breaking guys. And having those relationships with these dudes, because I was spamming for 3 years prior. I mean, complete spam campaigns. 1,000+ links you was gonna get hit with. We know how to set up the bots. We was bugging out. I'm talking about, I remember when Google hit me and told me, yo, I didn't even know they could suspend your email for 48 hours because of too many emails sent out from one account. So we just make up another email list. We didn't give them. Me and my bro, we was like, "You think you're gonna stop us?" We would literally take that USB card, push it over, copy, paste it in a new email, and just back at it. Like, "You're not stopping this. We out here, man." It was like the Wild Wild West to us. And dude, we'll tell you now, Amir and his brother was crazy. I even had aliases for shit I would do on the internet. 3 different alias names. I put them under there in the stars.
You was doing the extended warranty spam calls before they were.
Me and my brother Success J, man, and we were just I even in the beginning, what I would do, I didn't have a manager, so I made up a fake name. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I ain't gonna front. I had this dude with he had an ethnic name that was non-black sounding, and it was like and I said that he was my manager, but it was me. And I said, you want to contact the mayor, hit this email. So people would hit the email talking to me and about me, to me, and I would just answer them back, right? Because, and you talking over 10 years ago, I was on this, right? So I told my brother, I said, look, man, you got to come up with an alias name, and I'm going to start just telling people to hit you. So I started telling him how to do it. He said, yo, you crazy. I said, nah, it's going to work. I said, nobody want to talk to the artist directly. I've been noticing that. So we're going to just make up a fake management company and just tell people to hit this. And it started working. And then he built this thing called Success Media Group. He even changed his name to Success J. He said, yo, how does Success J? But he just kept it right. He ended up working on with Floyd Mayweather and everybody else because of this. You can look it up. It's documented. So we was just really two kids like just spamming, and it started to turn crazy. I'm talking about we had dudes from Google, not Google. I remember when Twitter had like 5,000. It was in beta mode. They would hit me and my brother to test out to see if the function of it. We didn't know. I didn't know at the time I was smoke testing for free. They pay people to do that, right? I'm up there telling you to play with it or tell us what you like about it. I remember when South by Southwest would hit us and send you the little layout for the stage, and I didn't have enough money to get out there at the time. But in the beginning, people would get South by was just strictly for technology companies. The blogs made and the artists that was using their platforms was the reason why those things fused over the years. This is all documented. I remember being in those around people for those conversations, and then you watch it just morph into what it has 5 to 10 years later. This is what I talk about, how technology was always underlying the push of the art. It's been amazing, like to see this grow and continue to grow. Because now people are talking about metaverses when metaverse has been around and technology around. People have been talking about that for years. So.
Dope. Well, yo, Amxxr, this has been amazing. Thank you for being here. I got one more question I want to ask you. I want to know, what is the most valuable lesson you've learned so far in your life?
To date is that in this moment, for me, being present, is that the messenger is never bigger than the message. And if you ever think you're bigger than a message, you'll never receive more messages or be a vessel for anything else that's going to flow through you to the people for your art. So having the instinct to know when to choose what seat you want to be in, but always know that you're not bigger than the energy that created you. So you should never put yourself in front of it. And not to drag it out, but this attaches itself to something else for me. Not taking it here, but before man, they said it was the word, the word created speaking, right? Physically, we're always behind our words. So your words always, your entire life, you have always been behind your word. Always. We don't get taught to look at it like that. I had to come to this reality recording my albums because I realized that I was always behind my word, and how could in my head I'm trying to get in front of it, but it's impossible. If you close your mouth and I say something, you can read this, you can still hear the word. So knowing the power of that energy has always superseded word, like the sound of it. So knowing how to read the difference, recognizing when somebody is speaking energy and when somebody is speaking English, and know that the two don't really communicate well together. Has always been a thing for me. And once I was able to recognize that, I was able to get out of my way and allow myself to be used more and know that I'm never bigger than what I'm saying. And as long as I keep that mindset, I will continue to grow in what I'm doing. So, yeah.
That's amazing, man. I never thought of it like that.
That's really dope.
Rich, anything else you want to say to Amir?
No, man. Just really appreciate the work. Looking forward to everything that you're doing. We'll definitely have to regroup and talk more about how things are going for you on this particular journey, and so forth. So yeah, make sure everybody check out Amxxr's music. You know, make sure you check out, if you haven't checked out his older stuff, you know, check out the Peace Beloved series, and you know, continue to check out, you know, YG, and so forth. So yeah, that's it, bro.
Yeah. And also, man, 21 Grams is out now. True Soul Records. Shout out to my brother P Rock. He got Peace 4 coming. I got Dope Boy Soul coming. Definitely gonna be top of the new year, due to, you know, nobody's out of here the fourth quarter album at this stage. So we look out for those 2 albums. I'm gonna be dropping like singles. We may surprise the people with a 5-pack, you know, before then. We definitely got them. So it's just a matter of logistics now. But nah, man, I just look forward to creating, and thank you guys for having me, bro. And I appreciate you taking the time with me too.
Absolutely, man. Thank you. Where can the people find you again?
You can find me on Instagram at AMXXR. You can find me on Twitter at 25th Hour Man, #2, the number 5, THHOURMAN, and also peacebeloved.com. Or you can even, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yeah, all that will be down in the description below, so that you guys can check out Amxxr. And yeah, man, that's it. Appreciate you, Amxxr. Thanks for being here, bro.
Man, thank you.
All right, y'all. We out. Peace.
Peace.